Up next on today's Wild West, he's a cowboy singer, races champion cutting horses, and is the voice of a very famous commercial. We'll visit Wylie Gustafson at his Montana ranch. Plus, we'll ride Montana's Blackfeet Indian Reservation.
You went to a bear den and the Grizz was in it?
Yeah.
With Tribal Member Chuck DeBoo. Plus, the healing power of Montana goats and the Western art of Ron Ukrainetz. Next on today's Wild West. The Wild West. It's still out there. And we'll show you how to find it. This is today's Wild West. Rocking the Big Dipper Barn Dance on a Friday night in Spokane.
She don't love you the way I do.
Chasing cows on his ranch in northern Montana. Or chasing buffalo to train his cutting horses. It's all part of the rich life of rancher, horseman, and award-winning cowboy singer-songwriter Wylie Gustafson.
It's a great life, being able to do the music and then come home, get on a horse and go check the cattle, and you know, a lot of to write about as far as songwriting here. Yeah. A lot of inspiration.
When the day is done, we'll have our fun, telling tall ones and singing old songs.
Long popular at cowboy music festivals like this show in Santa Clarita, California, Wylie's music has taken him all over the world.
Singing old songs.
He's performed in France, Japan, and Australia, played dozens of times at Nashville's legendary Grand Ole Opry, and jammed with late-night TV star Conan O'Brien.
Whoa, whoa, raving on the wind. Whoa, whoa.
And you've heard Wylie's biggest hit many times.
Yahoo! And that was my voice.
That trademark yodel on the Yahoo commercials.
Yep, that was my hit. You know, I always thought my hit record was going to be 3 minutes, and it turned out to be 3 notes.
Those were 3 very lucrative notes.
Yodeling has been good to me, so I wrote another song, another true story, autobiography called The Yodeling Fool. Goes out to Joe and Tim tonight.
That was a huge income source, allowed me to buy a nice ranch and some nice cutting horses and build a nice arena to ride in. So just allowed me to do more of what I wanted to do with the horses.
Music and horses have forever been part of Wylie's life, just as they were for his well-known father. Raymond Gustafson, better known as Rib, was a Montana horse and cattle veterinarian who raised Wylie and his 4 siblings horseback on a Montana ranch, to the soundtrack of his Martin D18 guitar.
My dad's favorite thing was to gather us around in the living room, usually on the weekends, usually after the Lawrence Welk show, and sing cowboy songs to us. And then we had 4 brothers and 1 sister, and then he'd do dance songs, and we'd wear our sister out, take a turn dancing with her in the living room. So, no, a lot of good memories growing up with Dad playing music.
He would turn off the TV and sing songs like this. Each step face the barren waste without the taste of water.
Dad was teaching Wylie how to play his first cowboy tune about the time he was old enough to pick up a guitar. And by middle school, he was playing bass in his older brother's high school dance band.
He needed a cheap bass player. I said, look, I'll do it for free, plus I will haul your equipment around. I'll be the roadie.
Wylie's been on stage ever since. And the expert horseman has been horseback ever since he was old enough to sit in the saddle.
Dad was, I guess, what you'd call a Renaissance man. He skied, played guitar, was a cowboy, was a horseman, rodeoed, did all this stuff and included his kids in his activities. We would go back into the Bob Marshall wilderness with horses, a pack string, every year. He was a ranch vet, so we were helping him doing his vet calls. And then he owned a ranch, so we had to do all that stuff that around the ranch, and it was just a wonderful life growing up.
When I was a kid on the ranch, my dad had what he called a character development program. Basically, that was just a lot of hard work, and in the summer times, we would buck hay bales all summer long.
Wylie's music is full of stories from the ranch life, like 200 Tons to Go.
Now 60 pounds apiece don't seem so bad, but pick a few thousand and you'll be glad. When the day is done, and don't be so sad. Only 200 tons to go. 200 tons to go. Riding, roping, loping, laughing out on the hoop rope trail.
The tunes about favorite horses, rodeo romance, riding, roping, laughing, and loping celebrate what he calls the Montana ranching culture.
There wasn't a lot of music that reflected what the ranch families were really going through. So I made it a point to start writing music that reflects the true ranch culture. Not only the romantic side of it, but the side of it that the everyday life side of it. So when I go and perform at a cowboy gathering, it really means a lot to me when the ranch families come up to me and thank me for writing music that they can relate to and that really represents what they feel is the cowboy life.
Wylie can write about the cowboy life because it's the life he leads to this very day on his ranch outside his hometown of Conrad, Montana.
I focus on raising and training horses, breeding horses, and selling young horses. So we're a horse ranch more than anything else, but we do have cattle.
He also keeps a couple buffalo on hand to train the pedigree American quarter horses he races as cutting horses.
Cutting is an ancient tradition with the cowboys. We've turned it into kind of a modern horse sport, but it comes from a real place where the cutting horse was the horse that was used on the ranch to doctor cattle, to cut out strays, and usually it was the boss's favorite horse. So the cattle will burn out in a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. They'll just give up and they won't respond at all. Buffalo stay moving all the time. They always give a lot of respect to the horse. So her reward for working good is not have to work too long. The belt buckles, they're pretty important to me because, each one of those is pretty hard to win.
Wylie's competed for years in cutting, and his trophy buckle collection shows he's won his share.
One of the reasons I did that was just to prove, I guess, my horsemanship, prove that I could go compete with other horsemen.
While Wylie is, of course, a cowboy, he's especially proud to be known as a horseman.
Everybody has a different way of training cutting horses, but for me, the relief when they're doing things right and giving them relief and giving them a breather is the key to me training a cutting horse. To be known as a horseman was, to me, a higher honor than being known as a cowboy, because there was a lot of cowboys around, a lot of good cowboys. But the horsemen, there wasn't a lot of great horsemen around. You really noticed when there was a good horseman. When you were around a good horseman, you really noticed that. And I always wanted to be a good horseman. I considered my father a good horseman. We grew up around horses that just took care of us, never had any bad accidents. So he had a pretty good horse program. In the cowboy element, I always wanted to be around good cowboys too. And so that's equally important to me in terms of just getting through the day, but being known as a horseman to me is the ultimate compliment.
Sweet bird of youth, no easy keeper.
The horses, the ranch life, and the beauty of Montana have long served as the material and inspiration for a music career that has produced 22 CDs. The songs can be serious, moving, romantic, or just plain fun.
She tell me, baby, better come back later next week because my barrel horse is on a street. I can't catch no. No, no, no. Woo! Hey, hey. I have no idea where that came from, but it felt good.
Wylie's unique style of cowboy music could be described as a genre-mixing blend of rock and roll, the classic country sound of Buck Owens and Merle Haggard, and the legendary Sun records of Elvis, Johnny Cash, and Carl Perkins.
That beat was so important, and we just kind of borrowed that beat. The ranchers up in Montana, they grew up with rock and roll, and there are a lot of dancers up in Montana, so we do a lot of cowboy dances just because our music is easy to dance to.
Kind of loosen up a little bit on a Friday night.
Wylie's music even inspires a little dancing of his own. He's become well known for his unique style of twist and shout on stage.
I just enjoy playing music so much, it's hard for me to keep still up there. God has just blessed me with the gift of music, and it just, when I perform, it just seems to run through me, you know.
Then sings my soul, my Savior God to thee.
Faith in God is the center of Wylie's life, and he's not afraid to share it. A Christian song or two are often included on his records and his concerts.
You can't look at a calf being born or a foal being born in the spring and not believe that there's a God. There's just certain things that you see every day in ranching that just really reaffirm the fact that God is with us.
It all comes full circle, from the stage to the saddle and back again.
Back to the horsemanship, I have a full album of songs I've written about horses. To me, the horse is a reflection of God's beauty and grace, and they're just wonderful, wonderful animals. They really are a gift from God.
And I feel
Wylie's fellow cowboys have shown their appreciation for his work by inducting him into the Montana Cowboy Hall of Fame, an honor also bestowed on his late father. Making a living as a rancher, a horseman, and a cowboy singer isn't the easiest trail to follow, but for Wylie, it's a labor of love.
I'm doing the two things that I love to do. The horses are such a passion and give me such inspiration for the music. So the nice thing about doing both is they both feed off of each other. I love going out, performing, making some money, and then I dump it back into the ranch or dump it back into the horses, and then the horses and the ranch lifestyle inspire my music.
You've been a wonderful audience. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy your Sunday at the Santa Clarita Cowboy Gallery.
I'm Mark Bedore. Today's Wild West is on the Blackfeet Indian Reservation in northern Montana. We'll take you for a trail ride with DeBoo's Ranch Adventures coming up on today's Wild West.
And we'll take the scenic route today.
The scenic route
Blue sky and then clouds again, huh?
is the only route there is here on Montana's Blackfeet Indian Reservation when you saddle up for a ride with Chuck DeBoo, owner of DeBoo's Ranch Adventures. It's a beautiful, cool fall day in late September
Can't complain about the scenery, huh?
as I join Chuck and guest Vicki Willis for some horseback exploration of DeBoo's 5,000-acre backyard.
You ever see grizz in the middle of the day?
Oh yeah, especially on days like today when it's cooler. See them along the stream. Quite a bit the last few times. That's where I've seen them, is along the stream.
Yeah.
And here in northern Montana, within sight of the Rocky Mountain front, the neighbors include grizzly bears.
A cow went down to drink water right here, and a grizzly caught her and killed her right there.
Full-grown cow?
Full-grown cow, like 1,100 pounds.
The grizz, whose dens are hidden within the hills we're riding, will stay out of sight today, but we do see sign of the animals along the trail.
Fresh bear poop.
How exciting is that?
Chuck's not worried about it, and we're not either. But after more than 30 years in this country, Chuck has learned to give the bears their space and steer clear of their dens.
You went to a bear den and the grizz was in it?
Yeah,
What happened?
I was a white man for a week. Scared to death.
It's the Wild West, and the chance to ride on Blackfeet land adds to the adventurous appeal of just being here.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Very exciting, yeah. I love their philosophy of life. I love the way they treat Mother Earth. And I think it's right.
Chuck's an enrolled member of the Blackfeet Nation, but the lifelong rancher is as much a cowboy as he is Indian.
Indian cowboy, you know, you'll hear that term a lot.
Is that what you'd call yourself?
I do, yeah. I've always kind of felt that way. So, an enrolled member of the tribe. I mean, so you're an Indian, but also, I mean, you got that cowboy spirit. So, and it's the way we grew up, you know. So, we'd call it Indian cowboy.
DeBoo's been hosting visitors for about 20 years, taking some 10 guests at a time, including many from Sweden. Guests are drawn to both the chance to experience this amazing land and the opportunity to learn about Native American culture.
Some of it is, you know, more so than I thought in the beginning. You know, I thought it'd be more about the, you know, the cowboy and the horseback riding, but you kind of get the cowboy and the Indian aspect, you know, being on a reservation like this and the history that's already here. So.
We got off our horses to stretch our legs at a place called Pine Ridge that features an amazing view of the Rocky Mountain front. And from this point, you can also see the snow-capped peaks of Glacier National Park.
Closest one over here is it's called Heart Butte Mountain, and that's pretty sacred to the Blackfeet, and behind it is Feather Woman, and they'll speak of them in the Sweat Lodge.
We spent a few minutes savoring the view from some rock outcroppings on top of the ridge.
So we can see Glacier from here?
That's Glacier, yeah.
That's
You can see the high peak to the left there, that's
top.
part of it, and then all this in front.
Some friendly horses wander up to say hi, spooked away when Vicky's hat blows off. And the wind has some ominous clouds headed our way.
Don't you think that's rain?
Sure looks like it.
We will get dumped on.
Here comes the rain. It's almost snow. Tally-ho.
Yep,
Go, boys.
rain is past.
But the storm rolls on by, quickly replaced by sunshine.
It does change in a hurry, doesn't it?
It does.
A memorable day in a historic and beautiful land where the buffalo once roamed and grizzly bears still do. Up next, harnessing the healing power of Montana goats.
This gun I love to shoot because of the range.
And later, mountain man artist Ron Ukrainetz. A herd of very friendly goats on a Montana farm in the beautiful countryside within sight of the Rocky Mountains outside Conrad, Montana.
That's Blondie.
Few people would look at a Nubian goat and see relief for people suffering from painful skin problems like those caused by diabetes, eczema, psoriasis, issues that former occupational therapist Dina Meyer was seeing every day.
Just numerous things, and watching them suffer and getting absolutely no relief. So I thought, man, I can do a better job.
She did just that, transforming the milk from those goats into Windrift Hill, a healing line of skincare products created and manufactured in tiny Conrad. Soaps, lotions, oils, lip balm, and more. First cooked up on the kitchen stove of a big old farmhouse where Dina and husband Dick had moved to live out in the country, a place they first shared with 3 goats.
And my husband jokingly said, "Oh, we better figure out something to take care of the taxes." Well, that was 3 goats. So that's kind of how it started, and then I started doing all the researching on the different properties and qualities of the goat milk and incorporated them into the soaps, the lotions, the body butters, just finding that people got huge results using the products.
Word of mouth spread.
Getting out there, marketing, have people try it, and that's kind of how it exploded. It really did.
We actually raise all the goats. So we have fresh milk. We're not buying powdered milk. We're not buying milk from other producers. We're actually raising the goats ourselves. So that keeps our products unique.
Today, Dina's daughter Amber handles marketing and sales, where word of mouth is still the best advertisement, especially coming from doctors.
Dermatologists recommend our products a lot to different people that have skin problems, whether it's for adults or babies or whatnot, but then a lot of cancer doctors and a lot of doctors that work with diabetic patients and so forth actually recommend our products to be used on those patients.
Dina says Windrift Hill is a hit with all kinds of people with dry skin.
They can put the butter on, put it on at night, put it on in the morning, and they're ready to go to work.
And the product is carried all over the West by a variety of retailers, pharmacies, gift shops, and national parks, where this all-natural product has a growing following.
There's no alcohol, no petroleum, no mineral oil, so no chemicals like that in any of our products. And because we don't use those ingredients, it moisturizes the skin so much better.
This area is just strictly soap.
Okay.
And Nick, this is my youngest son.
Hi, Nick.
How are you?
All 4 of Dina's children work in the business.
This is one that I made this morning.
Son Nick is in charge of soap production. His wife runs the office, and the Windrift Hill company store on Conrad's Main Street has become a destination stop for fans of the product traveling the West.
We even had some nuns that came out when we still had it out in the country. They loved the product and they wanted to see the goats and the mountain range and everything. So they came out and went from, and they were like in their 90s, went to every one of the buildings to see how the process worked and just had a great afternoon out there at the house.
Grizzly bears have visited the farm too, even though it's some 35 miles from the Front Range.
They're down here in this flat country all the time anymore.
Fortunately, they haven't gobbled up any goats, and the goats in the farm are protected by an electric fence and the ever-watchful eye of Dina's husband, Dick.
I'm the goat guy up.
Dick spends his days caring for a herd of about 30 goats. Does this guy have a name?
Not really.
Okay.
I was thinking of just calling them obnoxious.
Whose milk remains the soothing raw material that goes into the products that are helping so many people, first cooked up on a farmhouse kitchen stove, made in Montana.
It's quite the story.
It's a busy one, that's for sure. It's been good.
Still to come, the unique Western art of Ron Ukrainetz.
But it's a typical flintlock.
A flintlock rifle.
This would be a throwing axe.
A tomahawk.
This one was a gift.
A tanned elk hide.
You have to be in the right frame of mind to tan anything this big.
The tools of the trade of the mountain men of the early 1800s.
And that's me firing the gun.
And the Montana artist who brings that chapter of the American West back to life, Ron Ukrainetz.
It's all interwoven.
Ron's home studio in Great Falls is like a living history museum.
The buffalo teeth are real.
Appropriate for the man who also lives the history he paints as a member of his hometown's Lewis and Clark Honor Guard.
We're the oldest living reenactment group for Lewis and Clark in the country.
Great Falls is home to perhaps the finest Lewis and Clark interpretive center in the country, telling the story of the epic Corps of Discovery expedition from St. Louis to the Pacific and back again from 1804 to 1806.
And there still are an awful lot of people who are interested in that history.
Ron can explain the details of the clothing they wore back then, the natural way to tan a deer skin.
So when I get a good smoke going on, you can actually see the hide change color.
And the finer points of an old-time flintlock rifle.
This gun I love to shoot because of the range. It'll easily shoot 300 yards. This is pretty typical of...
He can also show you how Indians securely fastened feathers to those beautiful headdresses they wore.
The natives would scoop a section off the end of a feather like this, and they would fold it over and then tuck it back into the actual shaft of the feather and tie it off.
Ron was smitten with Lewis and Clark in the fur trade era of the American West when he visited a reenactment of a mountain man rendezvous in the 1980s.
A little tiny rendezvous up in Eureka, Montana, and I went up there and I was hooked immediately.
That discovery came not long after an accident that ended his career as an aircraft technician for the Air National Guard.
It pretty much left me disabled from the waist down. That nanosecond, people say there's always a turning point in one's life, and that was mine.
He retreated to a remote Montana cabin, devoting himself full-time to creating the art he loved since he was old enough to pick up a crayon.
I called it the corner lot because we had lake frontage and river frontage, and it was a wonderful place.
Along with scenes of the Old West, Ron focused his paintbrush on Western wildlife, landscapes, and a unique art form known as polychromatic engraving, a meticulous process he uses to produce beautiful images of traditional native headdresses.
I sketch everything out in pencil first, and sometimes those sketches will take me 2 to 3 weeks to finish, to get right.
The sketch is engraved on clayboard, painted, and then sealed. The finished work looks almost three-dimensional.
This particular headdress doesn't really relate to any one particular tribe, and it's not really built in a traditional fashion either.
When we visited, Ron was finishing up an engraving of the headdress made by famed Western artist Charlie Russell, now owned by the Great Falls Museum that bears his name.
He really did want to address the issue of being non-native and doing Native Americans. So he made his own clothing. I made this to use as a prop for one of my paintings.
Like Russell, Ron has great respect and love for Native American culture and traditions.
It's a pipe of unity, and it has a lot of spiritual value. I have not smoked this pipe because it has not been blessed yet. And when it's blessed, then I'll sit down with the elders and we'll go through that ceremony.
Ron spends much of his time painting and sketching outdoors. It's an office that does come with its share of adventures.
I got chased into my truck by a bear. Another gust of wind knocked a huge branch off of a tree, bonked me on the head, knocked me out. This actually came from a game farm up in Canada, and the wolf died from natural causes.
The painter is a stickler for authenticity, aided by his many props and furs.
So if one is representing a wolf down in Yellowstone in the winter, you better understand how dense that fur is.
Ron can even speak some of the sign language he portrays.
The sign language was very simple. If I'm going to do the accurate painting, I need to know what they're saying.
His labor-intensive efforts have been rewarded. Night of Artists at San Antonio's Briscoe Western Art Museum is one of many prestigious shows that have exhibited his art over the years. But he's always striving to make his next piece his very best one yet.
Artists should be like doctors. They have a practice their whole lives. And artists should be practicing their whole lives. And that's what I'm doing, is practicing.
That's it for now. We're back next time with more cool stuff from today's Wild West. I'm Mark Bedore. We'll see you down the trail. For more information on the people and places featured in today's Wild West, or to order show DVDs and books, visit todayswildwest.com. Funding for Today's Wild West provided by the Leggett Foundation,